Thank you, Kat. I don't care for them making fun of the dads doing the dad jokes. What's brown and sticky? A stick.
A stick.
Right. What's brown and sticky? A stick.
What's blue and smells like red paint?
What's that?
Blue paint.
Now that we get that out of our system. In fact, if you ask my kids, say, what's dad? They'll go, he's hilarious. I make them say that. What am I? Hilarious. They roll their eyes. Ask them. They'll tell you. Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Father's Day. Happy Juneteenth. Good to see everyone here. It's so, so lovely to have you all on this hot, hot summer day. If you would please stand and join us for our first song, which is God is All There Is by Eddie Watkins Jr. 1, 2, 3, 4.
God is all there is in the beginning. God.
Well, that was quite lovely. You guys sounded great. Please join us in Unity's statement of faith. Together now. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God the good, omnipotent. Please join us in Imagine by John Lennon.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. No religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Hope someday you'll join us. The world will be as one. Imagine no possession. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us. And the world will be as one.
Thank you. You may be seated. You also may remain standing if you want to.
Good morning. Lovely to see all these shining faces out here. We're glad to have you here, and good morning to all those that are watching the live streaming at home. Or even if you watch it later, we say hello and we're welcome. If there's anyone here for the first time today, we never ask you to stand up and try to embarrass you, but I hope that you will connect with someone around you, or see Sue or me, and let us tell you that we're glad you're here and find out a little bit about you. Today is Father's Day, and we wish to honor all the fathers and bless each and every one. And whether you were a father or whether you were a father, what's the word? Thank you. Father figure to a child. We honor and bless all of you. Would you please check in on Facebook? Telling your friends are right here at Unity of Springfield. And then if you would silence or turn your phone off. These beautiful, beautiful flowers, aren't they gorgeous? They were provided by Mary Lou Rao in celebration of the 72nd anniversary of Mary Lou and Cecil's marriage. Yay, Mary Lou. Please join me in the mission statement. Our mission is to encourage and inspire spiritual and personal growth by empowering each other to be authentically all that you came here to be. Let's speak together the affirmation for today's daily word. I honor God and the diversity of God's creativity when I honor all people. The people of the world are a diverse medley of different individuals and cultures. I honor the diversity of all people as I allow God's guidance in expressing love, then living in the light of love. It's true, the people who are sitting beside me on a bus, working with me in the office, or living next door to me in my neighborhood may enjoy different lifestyles and traditions than I do. However, wherever I am, I can help create an environment of understanding in which mutual respect and friendships are nurtured. As I listen to and watch others, I learn more of the diverse wonders in a world of God's creation. With such understanding in my heart, I am an emissary of God's love. By honoring all people, I am teaching by example so that all may see the blessing of honoring God by honoring diversity. The scripture is Ephesians 4:4 and 6. Let's say it together. There is one body and one Spirit, one God and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in all. Join me in repeating the affirmation. I honor God and the diversity of God's creativity when I honor all people. During prayer and meditation, please hold the following in prayer for their highest and best experience of life: John, Clay, Jane, Tracy, Bev and Christina, Eddie, Linda, Florberto, Jameson, Nicholas, Janet, Ethan, Debbie, Gregory, Steve, Ann, Kelly, Elda, Christine, Jessica, Mike, Joanne, Mike, Ashley, Jim, G, Mark, Wendy, Don, Larry, Kim, Mandy, and Mary Lou, and anyone for whom you wish us to share in your prayers. We share love and light with Mitch and his family on the loss of his uncle this week. As we ring the prayer bowl, we turn our attention within to our heart space, preparing for prayer and meditation. Breathe in a deep breath and focus your attention on the lovely vibrational sounds coming from the prayer bowl. Feel them resonate to the very center of your being. Focus on the breath as we begin to move into our prayer and meditation. Take a breath in, hold, and exhale. Breathe in deeply, hold, and exhale. Again, take a deep breath in, hold, and exhale. Let's begin to relax our bodies, starting at the top of our head, relaxing the forehead, ears, cheeks, jaws, and tongue. Follow your relaxation down your neck and shoulders. If you feel any tension, roll your shoulders or roll your neck. Move on down to the arms, elbows, wrists, fingers. Deep breath in, hold, and exhale. Turn your attention to the area of your heart, your Christ center. Bless every cell in your body, knowing every breath, the breath of God, is an infinite gift. Relax the abdomen and lower back. moving down through your thighs, knees, calves, ankles, feet, and toes. If you become distracted, bring your attention back to your breath. For all of the persons on the prayer list, for each of you, your friends, your co-worker, families, for all the people on earth, we affirm God is everywhere present. We call forth our faith and the faith of those for whom we pray to give them assurance that all needs are met by our Creator, our one source, God. We visualize peace between peoples and countries and peace of mind for all. We send blessings from the hearts of all of us to towns and areas devastated by unexpected loss of life, unrest, and environmental tragedies. We send strength and healing to all who are going through challenging times. We welcome peace of mind and peace on earth. Continue to feel the presence of divine spirit. Inhale deeply. Breathe into the spirit within as we move into meditation. The scripture we read, there is one body and one spirit, one God and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in all. Take that into your very center, to your being, to your heart space. One God, the Father of all, who is above all, through all, and in all. Each and every one of us. We here in this sanctuary and all around the world are a diverse medley. We're different individuals, different cultures, different beliefs. We hope to provide an environment of understanding and mutual respect for all. We don't have to agree with all, but they too are a living expression of God. We are all individualized expressions of the God in us. While we rest in the silence, let us think about ways that we can become more able to respect all, more understanding of differences and acceptance of differences. Love all. Love one another as I have loved you. In the silence.
got to give some props up to John Russ. Clay Holmes was going to sing, but due to illness, he was unable to. So John is stepping up as a music director should. And we're going to do Everyday People by...
Yeah,
Clay's doing
I
better.
just
Good.
turned my piano off. Now I have to turn it back on.
I see.
1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes I'm right, and sometimes I'm wrong. My own beliefs are in this song. The butcher, the banker, the drummer, and then makes no difference what group I'm in. I'm everyday people. There is a blue one who can't accept the green one for being such a fat one who's trying to be a skinny one. Different strokes for different folks, and so on and so on, and Scooby-Dooby-Doo. Wow, sha-sha. We got to live together. I am no better, and neither are you. We are the same, whatever we do. You love me, you hate me, you know me, and then you can't figure out the bag I'm in. I'm everyday people, yeah, yeah. There is the long hair who doesn't like the short hair. For me, such a rich one that will not help the poor one. Different strokes for different folks, and so on and so on, and Scooby-Dooby-Doo. Wow, sha-sha. We got to live together. There is a yellow one that won't accept the black one, that won't accept the red one, that won't accept the white one. Different strokes for different folks, and so on and so on, and Scooby-Dooby-Doo. Wow, sha-sha. I'm everyday people.
John Russ. Woo!
Thank you.
Holy schmoly. That was his song, wasn't it? Dang. The band, you guys are awesome. Wow. That was amazing. Thank you so much. And so perfect for today. So perfect. Well, good morning, everyone. It's good to see all of you here this morning. If you did not get in here for the pre-video, I really encourage you to get in here at 10:45 and watch that pre-video that Kat puts together. It was so emotional. The Father's Day aspect of it, it was all, the Juneteenth part of it, which we're going to talk about today, but the Father's Day aspect was so beautiful about the impact that you fathers have on your children, or like a child, you're a father to maybe not your own children, but to stepchildren, or even fathers to pets is important. And how many dads in here can admit that you do some pretty interesting dad jokes? Paul Day, put your hand up. Thank you. Greg, you put your hand up back there. Come on, you guys. I have to believe most of you are pretty good at those dad jokes. I often tell Paul that, I laugh at some of his jokes, but sometimes I just laugh at him because he's cracking up at his own jokes. But happy Father's Day. I really want to acknowledge all of you who are fathers in any way, because your role is so very important. So thank you for what you do and what you have brought to our world through your beautiful and wonderful fathering aspect. So this past week, I virtually attended Unity Worldwide Ministries, which I'm going to refer to as UWM, their annual convention. And I really enjoyed doing it virtually. And one of the things that I so appreciate about getting to do these conventions, these conferences, anything that I get to go and be a part of, is the opportunity that I have to expand my own consciousness. To expand my, as what Maria Nemeth calls my structures of knowing, to let some of those structures of knowing down and to move those structures of knowing out in a bigger realm. And I'm going to tell you, this past week did not disappoint at all. I learned so much. And this conference went from 9 in the morning until 5:30, and then a couple nights they had things that went from 7 to about 8:30 through Friday. So it was a big week, but it was absolutely amazing. And there is something that I'm going to share in a minute that definitely shook or rattled my cage, is what I'm going to say. But what I did in that was I listened, and I listened with the willingness to be changed by what I heard. And I really grew from that experience, and I'll tell you more about that in just a minute. There's so much that I want to share with you, but for today, what we're going to focus on is what Reverend Shad Groverland, who's the CEO of UWM, and the board president, John McMahon, shared was their number one priority for this entire past year, and that is this DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusivity. And I want to share this not only because of its timeliness, of the fact that today is Juneteenth, but I sat and contemplated the acronym WWJD, what would Jesus do? And I thought, my goodness, if Jesus showed up here today, he would be like, hello, did you guys not hear anything that I was telling you over 2,000 years ago? You know, I ask that you follow me, that you follow my example. Jesus was the one who was out there, and he was standing up for, and he was speaking about, and he was making a difference for those who were oppressed. And yet here we are today, and we're still living in a time where many, many people are still oppressed. His biggest commandment was what? Love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind and all your strength. And it's the same thing, Teresa, yes. And I love how in that commandment he said, and the second is like unto it. And to me, it's his way of saying that this second part of it is how you do it. You love God by loving your neighbor as you love yourself. Now, here's the cool thing about this too to me, is he didn't say you love God by loving yourself and then loving your neighbor. He made it clear that he wanted us to understand the goal here was to love each other. That's the most important goal. But we can't truly love each other if we don't love ourselves, if we don't recognize that every single one of us is an emanation of God, an emanation of the divine, and we own that. Because in owning that and diving into that, we purify this consciousness. We purify our soul. We purify a way that we start looking at the world in a different way, and we can start seeing people from that purified vision rather than from our judgmental vision. Because I don't know about you, but I know I still deal with a lot of judgments. Yes? Yeah. And it's natural in our humanness, but that's some of what we're going to talk about today. So some of the things that they did was, well, let me first go to my second page, which is somewhere in here. Here it is. Okay. So what I want to share with you now is an official statement from Unity Worldwide Ministries. I'm not going to share the whole thing, but I think it's important for us as people who are here in Unity to know what Unity Worldwide Ministries is about and what Unity World Headquarters is about. So the official statement is that Unity Worldwide Ministries stands for anti-racism, i.e., we are opposed to racial hatred, racial violence, bias, systemic racism, and the oppression of people of color. We stand for diversity, equity, and inclusion for people who are marginalized because of color. No individual or group should be made to live in fear or excluded from society. Recent events in the United States and the world remind us that violent repression, prejudices, injustices, and inequalities towards people of color are embedded in societies, from social structures to institutions to cultures. Unity chooses to be more aware and take positive action in dismantling systemic racism and the social structures that support injustice and prejudice, and we raise awareness through our membership, churches, and centers. Whereas Unity stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion for people of color, our second principle states human beings have a spark of divinity within them, the Christ within. Their very essence is of God, and therefore they are also inherently good. This principle applies to all people, regardless of color, and whereas we are fully committed to Unity Worldwide Ministries, being an ambassador for diversity, equity, and inclusion in our world, and an example through our actions in the Unity movement. How amazing is that? Yes. Now, they listed out a whole list of actions that they were going to take. They wrote this last year. And so I want to tell you some of what they shared with us that they've done in this past year. They contracted with Dr. Amanda Kemp, who was the keynote speaker at last year's convention. And with the idea, of course, that they were going to do what they felt that they were being guided and inspired to do, and that was to pursue racial justice from the heart. So Reverend Shad, the CEO, and the board president both did 6 personal sessions with Dr. Amanda Kemp, and in that 6 sessions, they also did outside reading, they did journaling, and they did reflections on how to effectively use their leadership positions to implement effective change. Also, the board and the staff just concluded the 7-session discussion and action-oriented program from the Anti-Racism Institute, which I encourage you to go and take a look at this. This was actually designed by Unity minister, Reverend Wendy Craig Purcell, which was designed to help them become white allies in their quest for racial equality. They also participated and facilitated conversations on a book that I'm going to be sharing from today by Emmanuel Achok called Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. If you want to start somewhere, start here. I'm only about a quarter of the way through this book, but this book explains things in a way that I get it, that as much as I can get it. It's a gentle way for us as white people especially to be able to look at this and to recognize what is still going on today. Now, each of them also, all the staff and board, have agreed to participate in a racial equity project designed to have a positive impact in breaking down social disparities brought about by society's biases and privileges. I said the 2 words. In addition, they also pledged to expand the input and influence, and I love this, of those who don't look like the majority of us in the Unity movement. Yes, that's huge. They listened. They were willing to be changed by what they heard. And they were willing to recognize that as white people, my friends, we don't get it. We can't get it. It's a different life for people of color. And today, that's what I'm focused on. People of color, and what I've learned in this book is that I can also call them Black people. They listened. And I'm so proud, I know myself, to be part of an organization that is willing to own its stuff, how we as a Unity movement discriminated against people of color, also how we discriminated against our LGBTQIA family, but not only to make a commitment. I'm proud to be part of an organization that owned it and that they are now doing better, and because they are taking the action. And Unity claimed Juneteenth as a holiday last year, even before it was made a federal holiday. So I'm so proud of that. So in Ephesians 4:6, this was our scripture for this morning. There is one body and one spirit, one God and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in all. And somewhere in our history, we forgot that. And we took a whole group of people and we dehumanized them and we made them less than us. And yet here is scripture telling us that we're all the same. We all have that same spirit. We are here to be treated equally amongst each other, never to be treated as less than. And in John 13:35, it says, "By this everyone will know that you are my disciples if you have love for one another." So today, is Juneteenth. And so I want to share with you some information from Unity's website, unity.org. If you want to go there, unityworldwideministries.org, but on unity.org, you're going to find some good information. And this is an article by Reverend Jackie Hawkins. Now, Reverend Jackie talks about that celebrations are important. And we celebrate a lot of things, don't we? We celebrate marriages. We had that yesterday here at the church. We celebrate birthdays. We celebrate graduations. But we also celebrate things that are the end of a conflict. And so things like Armistice Day or Veterans Day or July 4th, we celebrate that there was an end to a conflict. So it's important that we celebrate these things. And she said, there's a familiar quotation by George Santayana that states, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." And from a spiritual perspective, until we remember, we release, and we let go and let God, we will repeat the same lessons again and again. I can tell you that is true from my own personal experience. That until I was ready and willing to look and to say, wow, this is what my past has been. Now what can I do from here to move forward and not repeat that again? So it's important that we celebrate these holidays. So, what is Juneteenth, or what some people refer to as Freedom Day? Well, interestingly enough, on June 19th in 1865, even though the Emancipation Proclamation was given by President Lincoln about 2.5 years earlier than that, the state of Texas was formally informed that any and all enslaved people in the Confederate States were no longer property of their masters. Now, it's interesting, isn't it, that Texas was the only state that didn't supposedly hear that. Really? I'm thinking maybe they just didn't care, but they were informed that that was the case. So, imagine for formerly enslaved people, this was their day of freedom and liberation and independence. And she says that it matters more than ever that we celebrate Juneteenth because of the evolution in consciousness that it represents. So I love this. This is from The Spirit of Juneteenth by Tom Feelings. And he says, if this part of our history could be told in such a way that those chains of the past, those shackles that physically bound us together against our wills, could, in the telling, become spiritual links that willingly bind us together now and into the future, then that painful middle passage could become, ironically, a positive connecting line to all of us, whether living inside or outside the continent of Africa. And I thought, what a beautiful way to express that. Reverend Jackie also says that the celebration of Juneteenth matters because our country cannot afford to repeat its past sins that generated beliefs, policies, and systems that were and are continue to be discriminatory, immoral, and inhumane. A celebration of the liberation from those beliefs, policies, and systems can help to ensure that we will not repeat them again. And that's so true. That's why it's important that we recognize and we celebrate Juneteenth. Here's the thing. It's when we know better, we can do better, right? But it's important that we know, that we open ourselves up to be educated about these things. We must not fall asleep, and we cannot not have these conversations because they make people feel uncomfortable. I think, my goodness, when you look at the history of Black people in our country, we're worried about some white people being uncomfortable. They were treated less than human for hundreds of years. And it's only been in the last 150 years, the Emancipation Proclamation, they're still trying to come up out of that and to be recognized and to say, hey, hello, I'm here, and I'm no different than you are. And I want to be seen as equal. And not just equal, but I'm going to talk about it in a few minutes, equity. We are one in spirit. We are one in humanity. So here's the thing, that we have to continue this work because, my friends, not only do we not still have equality, equal rights for people, but I guarantee you we do not have equity. So let me share with you the difference between equity and equality. The term equity refers to fairness and justice and is distinguished from equality, whereas equality means providing the same to all. Equity means recognizing that we do not all start from the same place and must acknowledge and make adjustments to imbalances. The process is ongoing, requiring us to identify and overcome intentional and unintentional barriers arising from bias or systemic structures. So the question is, what can we do? How can we be a part of the solution? And I'm going to assume that if we're all sitting in here today, we all want to be part of the solution, yes? We want to be part of the solution. But these are the tough conversations that we have to have, my friends. And here's the thing I'm going to ask. As I'm going to ask you to open up your heart and your mind and to be willing to be changed by what you hear, please don't close down in this conversation that we're going to have this week and next, because it's so important. This is some of the biggest spiritual work that we can be doing right now. And I'm going to give you an example of being willing to be changed by what you hear. As I shared, I had one day of the conference was on earth care. I was super excited about this because I'm passionate about earth care. And, and so they were talking about climate change. And I'm like, oh, this is so great. They're going to be talking about climate change. And so what the conversation was mainly about was the impact of animal agriculture and how this is impacting our climate as much as fossil fuel emissions are impacting our climate. And we can't deny that climate change isn't real. My goodness, we just had over 2,000 cattle die in Kansas because of the heat. Yellowstone is flooding. Our temperatures right now are hitting record highs, and we're only in the month of June. And so where the speaker guided us was to become a vegan. Now, I feel a little resistance in this because I've been a meat eater all my life, and quite frankly, I like meat. So this was a big barrier for me. But I listened. I sat there and I listened to what the speaker had to say. And it gave me pause for thought. And it encouraged me to start making some minor, maybe major, changes in my way of living. Now, I did not come away from that saying, I'm a vegan. I didn't come away from that saying I'm a vegan. But I learned because I was willing to be changed by what I hear. And that's what I'm asking, is for this week and next week to be open, to be willing to be changed by what you hear. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about is implicit bias. How many of us know that we have implicit biases? Probably we should all be raising our hands, because I'm going to tell you every single one of us has implicit bias. We have implicit biases about our government, about rich people, about poor people, about obese people, about women, about LGBTQIA+, about different cultures. We have implicit biases about everything. Emmanuel Acho, the author of the book, says an implicit bias is a knee-jerk judgment about every superficial difference between people. And especially people of color in this case. But we all have implicit biases. We just grew up with them, you guys. We grew up and we took in everything that we were taught. And we took it in to be true. And so it's just ingrained in us. So here's the thing that we need to ask ourselves as a congregation of mainly white people. What are my implicit biases about people of color? So it was interesting. So they showed us a video. And on this video, they showed 3 different scenes. The first scene, and they asked us, what is your initial thought? Like, don't try to spiritual bypass this. Don't try to oh no, that would never be my thought. Let's be honest, because this is the only way we're going to move forward. So the first was a scene of 2 young black boys, teenage boys, that went into a small grocery store. And they showed the boys go off into an area. And then they showed that there was a white owner, and he couldn't see the boys, but he had a camera there. So he was watching them. The second scene was a young black woman who was very, very, very pregnant. She had a 1-year-old on her hip, and she had like a 3-year-old toddler that was going in front of her. And the third scene was a young black man in a big car, had his window rolled down, had his music playing, drives up to a house and goes up and is ready to knock on the door. So we had to go into breakout groups and asked, what were your initial thoughts about that? And for most everybody, the initial thoughts were on the first one. that there was going to be a confrontation with these two young black boys. They were going to try to steal something, have an altercation with the white owner. For the black mother, did she have 3 baby daddies? Was she on welfare? And then on the last one, was the young black man, was he a pimp? Was he a drug dealer? So these were the initial reactions. So then they showed the rest of it. And on the first one, another young black boy went into the grocery store. The 3 young black boys, then they bought soda and they bought chips and they were happy and they were laughing and they went up and they paid for their stuff, and it was a joyful experience. For the young mother who was walking, who was clearly pregnant with the 2 little ones, as she was walking down the sidewalk, a nice SUV pulled up, and her young black husband, the father of her children, got out and came over and hugged those children and hugged her. And on the last one, the young black man who was driving, as he went up and knocked on the door and opened the door, there was his mom just there to give him a hug. And I thought, my God, how quickly my mind went to something that I was taught years ago that is so quick to come up for us, because this is what has been ingrained in us. And here's the thing about this. This is not to make any of us bad or wrong. We're not doing anything on purpose. But the important thing here is that we have been programmed with bias against people of color by our families, our neighborhoods, our religion, our media, our government. We have been programmed with this. And this is simply to allow ourselves to become mindful enough in the moment to catch it and to say, is this true? And I guarantee you that the vast majority of the time, you're going to say, no, there's no truth in this at all. We are all one humanity. And it's so important that we start seeing each other beyond our skin color. Now, here's what I want to say about skin color, though. When I want to, because he talks about this in his book, that it's not that we want to be colorblind. I get that concept, and there's a beautiful song about I'm colorblind. But he said when we're colorblind, we take away people's lived experiences. And people of color don't want you to not see them as black. They just want you to see that they are black and to honor that, but to see them as a human being. And so what Emmanuel says about the bias. He says, in order for us to conquer our implicit biases, we have to speak openly and honestly about them. Uncomfortable conversation is all about addressing this kind of thinking, airing it out. We can't let these ideas fester in silence. So what's the game plan for reducing implicit biases? One way is to spend time with people in different social, racial, and ethnic groups. You can do things like join meetups, join a gym or a fitness class, take a class in something that you're interested in, or drop by a new desk at work, or walk around your neighborhood. And then he goes on to say, stop celebrating colorblindness. Some of the things that I would like to share with you, and are some what do I want to call these? I can't think of the word. Some resources to go and check out. The books are Uncomfortable Conversations with the Black Man, White Fragility, How to Be an Anti-Racist, and so you want to talk about race. The first one is the one that I would recommend that you go to first, because it's such a good book, one that, again, will make it easy for us to understand. But then you can also go to the anti-racisminstitute.org. There are also 2 Unity ministers, Reverend Kelly Isola and Reverend Ogun Holder, that started this thing called Project Sanctus, projectsanctus.com, or you can go to Project Sanctus on Facebook. You can listen to their podcasts. These are amazing. This is an amazing resource for opening up our minds and starting to have these conversations. And if you wonder if you have implicit bias, go to the implicit.harvard.edu implicit take a test and learn about if you have some bias. And I was kind of surprised when I took my test to go, oh, well, look at that. Yet I wasn't surprised, because I recognized that I was brought up this way. And so here's what I want to close with. This is some of the most important feet-on-the-ground spiritual work that we can be doing. These conversations need to be happening in churches all across our country, because this is the foundation of what Jesus' message was about. was about love and about oneness, about connection, about helping people rise up out of those places where they have been made to feel less than anybody else. So I just want to encourage you for this week. I also put some papers out on the hallway that have this information on it. Take a picture of this if you want to, but start somewhere. Open yourself up to learning and to educating yourself. I also want to put this out there, that I know that there's one or two of you that have a real passion about this. And I would love for us to have a leadership team that has to do with diversity, equity, and inclusivity, that we could do some book study groups, that we can get on the Anti-Racism Institute when they do their classes, that we can start bringing our community together in a way that we start having these conversations. You know, it was interesting, Paul and I the other day, I'm sorry if I get emotional, stuff just gets me. We decided to go to a restaurant that's on Commercial Street. And as we were driving from our southwest neighborhood, where we only saw like 2 people of color, and the further north that we got, the more people of color we saw. And there was one particular grocery store that it was all people of color in the parking lot. And it just got my heart that if you don't think there's still a problem, you got your head in the sand, my friends. There's still a huge problem here. And you and I, we can become part of the solution. And I want to encourage us to make this a priority in our ministry, that we become part of the solution. And in closing, Madeleine Albright said, "The temptation is powerful to close our eyes and wait for the worst to pass, but history tells that for freedom to survive, it must be defended, and that if lies are to stop, that they must be exposed." So let's do this together. John, thank you so much for the song today. Thank you for the Imagine song, because we can imagine this together. We can do our consciousness work, but it's time for us to get feet on the ground, my friends. And it's time for us as Unity of Springfield to say, we want to be part of the solution. So thank you. Thank you. And thank you for coming back next week to hear more. Namaste. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you. All right, as our ushers and our band are coming forward and we have this opportunity to be in high service financially to this ministry, please know that when we come to this place in our service, it's not about, we are a not-for-profit organization. We are not here to make big money for Unity of Springfield, but I can also tell you we are a business, and that we have things that we have to take care of every month. And not only that, but that there are programs that we want to bring into our ministry. So we thank you in advance for all the ways that you give financially to this ministry. There are many ways that you can give. You can do it online on our website. You can go to our Tithely app. I give through my bank on a weekly basis, and you can write a check or give cash. But thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want to put this out there. Anybody who has any ideas on great ways to fundraise, because the reality, my friends, is that churches today are in decline financially because it's not the same as it was when our grandparents were here. You know, people don't give 10% like they used to. So we need to look for new avenues of income. And I know that there are brilliant minds out there right now with brilliant ideas, and thank you for bringing those brilliant ideas to us. So let's bless our gifts together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And thank you, God.
Once again, we have Mr. John Russ singing a song I was unfamiliar with, Blood Brothers by Ingrid Michelson. Mr. Russ.
1, 2, 3, 4. If you knew me, would you save that seat for me?
If you love me, would you lift me from the ground? If you love me, would you even hear me make a sound? We're all blood, we're all blood, blood brothers. We're all blood, we're all blood, blood brothers. What you need, what you need, I need too. What you are, I am too. 'Cause we're all the same under a different name. We're all blood, we're all blood, blood brothers. We're all blood, we're all blood, blood brothers. We're all blood, we're all blood, blood brothers. We're all blood, we're all blood, blood brothers.
I must say, one of my favorite experiences at church is stepping up here every week and seeing that slight look of terror on Sue's face because she doesn't know what I'm going to say. Feels great. It feels great. I'm going to give a plug out for thrift books. I don't know if you guys, I do a lot of reading and I buy used books a lot. Thriftbooks.com. You get books from all over the U.S. I did look up and the uncomfortable conversations with the black men, they have multiple copies. So if you're looking for an inexpensive way to get that book, that's a great way to go about it. Free shipping over $10. And, you know, it's fun. You can go back and go find, like, books from your childhood that you don't have access to that. And I'll get 3 or 4 of those, you know, juvenile books that I read when I was 13, 14, 15, and it's quite nice. As a quick Father's Day thing, I must say, it's sometimes the little stuff that makes life so sweet. This watch, my mother bought for my father in 1971. And this was the watch that my older brother and my younger sister, like, we grew up in.